Every single tooth would have two endodontic diagnoses, a pulpal diagnosis and an apical diagnosis. We will be discussing about the endodontic classification today, given by the American Board of Endodontics. Let's begin with the pulpal diagnosis. In the pulpal diagnosis, you have a normal pulp, reversible pulpitis, symptomatic irreversible pulpitis, asymptomatic irreversible pulpitis, pulpal necrosis, and previously treated pulp. Let's begin with the normal pulp. Normal pulp is usually asymptomatic, but when tested with a thermal or an electrical stimuli, you would have mild to moderate transient response. Now, what is a transient response? A transient response means a momentary response which subsides when the stimulus is removed. And why do we have this mild to moderate response? Is because there are pulpal fibers that are stimulated by this stimuli. And this concept is used to test the pulpal integrity. So let's talk a bit about the pulp testing methods. The Cole test is one of the most commonly used tests to diagnose a tooth for its endodontic health and disease. The commonly used chemical for this is endo-ice, which is dichloro-difluoromethane, which runs around negative 30 degrees Celsius. It comes in a bottle with a spray, which you would spray on a piece of cotton and then hold this chilled pellet on the middle third of the facial surface of the crown. You have to be sure that the tooth has been dried prior to the testing. The intensity and the duration of the response would provide us with the information for pulpal diagnosis. Second most commonly used test is the EPT, which is the electrical pulp test. Though it's a convenient one, it's the least reliable one. It indicates if there are vital sensory fibers present in the pulp, but it does not provide any information about the vascular supply of the pulp, which is actually a true measure of the vitality of the pulp. This holds true even for the Cole test, but Cole test would actually give you a spectrum of information, whereas the EPT would give you information if the tooth is alive or dead. EPT, as with the Cole test, both have false positive and false negative results. An example of a false negative would be seen in a recently traumatized tooth or in situations where there is excessive calcification of canals. An example of false positive would be when the tooth has not been dried properly prior to testing, or if you touch the gingiva instead of the tooth. The EPT is contraindicated in patients with cardiac pacemakers. This is one of the ADC MCQs. So let's go back to our classification, second of which is reversible pulpitis. When compared with a normal pulp, this situation is symptomatic. Thermal testing, usually with a cold stimuli, would cause sharp, hypersensitive, quick, and a transient response. I usually remember it as SHOT, S-H-O-T. So I use a Q instead of O, and I remember it as sharp, heightened, quick, and a transient response. So a normal pulp would have mild to moderate response, whereas a reversible pulpitis would have a heightened response. So that's the reason why you would actually check several teeth and not just the one that you're concerned about, to have a baseline response and then compare it with an adjacent, opposing, and contralateral teeth. So this is again one of the MCQs asked in the ADC teeth, that what are your control teeth, and it's the adjacent, opposing, and the contralateral teeth for testing. In a situation of reversible pulpitis, there would be no spontaneous pain, no pain that wakes the patient from sleep, and no unprovoked pain. So, an irreversible pulpitis is seen in relation to an irritant, and this irritant may be caries, deep scaling, restorations without liners or base. And when the irritant is removed, the pulp may revert back to its normal state. That is why it's termed as reversible pulpitis. That is a reversible inflammation of the pulp. If the irritants remain, however, the symptoms may lead to an irreversible pulpitis, which is the next stage. That is, the frank penetration of the bacteria to the pulp which lead to a reversible pulpitis. Let's talk about symptomatic irreversible pulpitis. The pulp ear has been irreversibly damaged beyond repair, and now the removal of the stimulus is not going to revert the pulp back to its normal state. It's a symptomatic condition, and when seen microscopically, you would see microabscess but intact nerves. That is the reason why it's very, very painful. It's usually characterized by spontaneous pain or continuous pain. By spontaneous, I mean it's an unprovoked kind of pain. It does not need any stimuli, and it can wake the patient from sleep. Cold stimuli here would cause a heightened response which is lingering. So by lingering, I mean when the stimuli is removed, still the patient would feel the pain for about 15 seconds or 30 seconds and more, and that is the key factor in determining that the pulp is irreversibly damaged. That is the lingering pain. Also, postural changes usually increases the blood pressure to the head, and it increases the pain in this situation. Radiographs are insufficient for the diagnosis, and the electric pulp testing is of little value. So you would usually rely on a proper history, explanation of the pain, and the cold test results. The next is asymptomatic irreversible pulpitis. This situation is asymptomatic and the nerves respond normally, but microscopically, histologically, the pulp is irreversibly damaged. The patient may feel that nothing is wrong, but it's an irreversible condition where the pulpal damage cannot be reversed. The next one is pulpal necrosis. Pulp necrosis is usually asymptomatic. It may occur quickly or may need a lot of years to happen, and this process may be painful, but usually it's asymptomatic. The necrosis may be partial or total, and it's often due to long-term interruption of the blood supply of the teeth. And in anterior teeth, it's accompanied by the discoloration of the crown. So let's review the pulpal diagnosis. The cold test is the best method to know the pulpal integrity, as it gives you a spectrum of information. The EPT just tells you if the tooth is vital or non-vital. Now, in regards to the thermal testing, usually with the cold test, a normal pulp would have a normal response which is non-lingering. A reversible pulpitis would have heightened response which is non-lingering. Symptomatic irreversible pulpitis which have a heightened response which is lingering, and that's the key feature for symptomatic irreversible pulpitis. Asymptomatic irreversible pulpitis is a bit funny. It would have normal response and non-lingering, similar to the normal pulp, and pulpal necrosis would have no response at all. Now, if pulp necrosis is left untreated, toxins would spread beyond the apical foramen, leading to the thickening of the periodontal ligament and thus tenderness to percussion and palpation, leading to an apical disease. Now, apical disease of a pulpal origin is the extension of the inflammatory response of the irritants of the root canal system. In short, is the extension of the pulpal disease into the apical tissues. So let's talk about the apical diagnosis. In apical diagnosis, you have the normal apical tissues, then the symptomatic apical periodontitis, then asymptomatic apical periodontitis, then acute apical abscess, and then chronic apical abscess. So let's begin with the normal apical tissues. The normal apical tissues are asymptomatic and would have no pain to percussion or palpation. Now, as in the pulpal diagnosis, we had two main tools for diagnosis like the Gold test and the EPT. In the apical diagnosis, we have percussion and palpation with X-rays as our main diagnostic tools. Let's talk about this test. For percussion, you usually would tap on the teeth, often with a mirror handle in a vertical direction along the long axis of the tooth. Patient should feel the tapping but should feel no pain with the normal apical tissues. For palpation, you would feel the gum tissue around the apex of the tooth with gloved fingers. The patient should feel the palpation but no pain should be felt by the patient, and you should not feel any swelling or any fluctuant swelling or any discharge in that area. Now let's go to symptomatic apical periodontitis. It is the painful inflammation around the apex of the tooth, and it is characterized by painful percussion and throbbing pain. The throbbing pain is due to the local inflammation infiltrate within the periodontal ligament. Now, in this condition, if the tooth is vital, usually an occlusal adjustment may relieve the pain. But if the tooth is non-vital, root canal treatment would be necessary because it may be the infection of the pulp that has now spread to the apical tissues. Now, talking about asymptomatic apical periodontitis, it is an asymptomatic condition, and on an X-ray you would see an apical radiolucency, which would confirm the pulpal necrosis. This is the key sign for this diagnosis. The next is acute apical abscess. This is a classic one, and it's the most easy one because you would have rapid swelling, severe pain, and an exudate around the apex. So you would see all the signs of inflammation here like swelling, pain, heat, and it's easy to distinguish. The last one is the chronic apical abscess, and the key sign here would be the draining sinus tract. The patient may feel no discomfort or no swelling because the tract communicates with the oral cavity and the source of the infection, which may be one of the teeth. So to know the source of the infection, you could insert a GP cone and stop when you get resistance. And with the GP cone in place, you could shoot a radiograph to find the path and the source of the infection. Usually the results are quite surprising. To review the apical disease in one, acute apical abscess is the classic one because you would see all the signs of inflammation, like you would have pain, swelling, and a lot of discomfort. Chronic apical abscess, you would see no swelling, no pain, but a draining sinus tract. Symptomatic apical periodontitis, you would see pain on percussion. Asymptomatic apical periodontitis, you would see a periapical radiolucency. And if you see none of these key features, then it's normal apical tissues. So each one has a key feature which will help you to diagnose the apical disease.